What does it mean to own silver? Silver has held a unique place in human economic history, simultaneously a monetary metal, an industrial input, and a store of value. Today, however, most exposure to silver doesn't involve coins or bars at all. Instead, it exists as entries in brokerage accounts, exchange traded funds, futures contracts, and other financial instruments. This raises a simple but important question. What is the difference between owning paper silver and owning physical silver? And why does that distinction matter? The answer is not just about preference or convenience. It reflects deeper differences in how modern financial systems operate, how markets are structured, and how risk is distributed. Understanding this distinction requires stepping back and looking at both forms through a historical and structural lens. For most of recorded history, silver functioned as money. Civilizations across Europe, Asia, and the Americas used silver coins as a medium of exchange and a unit of account. Even into the 19th century, many economies operated on bimetallic standards, where both gold and silver underpinned monetary systems. However, over time, governments moved away from metal-backed currencies toward fiat systems, money backed by state authority rather than physical commodities. As this transition occurred, silver's role shifted. It became less central to everyday transactions and more relevant as a store of value, a hedge against monetary instability, a key industrial material used in electronics, solar panels, and medical applications. At the same time, financial markets evolved. Instead of requiring physical delivery of metals for every transaction, new instruments emerged that allowed participants to trade price exposure without moving the metal itself. This is where the distinction between paper and physical silver begins to take shape. Physical silver refers to tangible metal in the form of coins, government minted or private. Bars, varying sizes, from grams to 1,000-ounce industrial bars. Rounds, coin-like pieces without legal tender status. Ownership is straightforward. If you hold physical silver, you directly possess the asset. There is no intermediary required to validate its existence beyond storage and verification. Key characteristics of physical silver: direct ownership. No counterparty is required for value to exist. No default risk. Its value does not depend on another party fulfilling an obligation. Storage requirements. It must be stored securely, either privately or through a custodian. Liquidity considerations. Selling physical silver typically involves dealers, spreads, and sometimes delays. Historically, physical silver ownership has been associated with individuals seeking independence from financial systems, particularly during periods of economic uncertainty. However, it also comes with practical limitations, especially at scale. Paper silver is a broad term that refers to financial instruments representing exposure to silver prices without requiring physical possession. These include futures contracts, exchange-traded funds, ETFs, unallocated bullion accounts, options, and derivatives. Each of these instruments has its own structure, but they share a common feature. Ownership is mediated through a financial system rather than direct possession of metal. Key characteristics of paper silver: convenience, easily traded through brokerage accounts, liquidity, high trading volume, and tight spreads in many markets. Leverage in some cases. Futures contracts allow exposure beyond initial capital. Counterparty dependence. Value depends on institutions honouring contracts. For example, in a futures market, most participants never intend to take delivery of silver. Contracts are typically settled financially or rolled forward. Similarly, some ETFs are structured to track silver prices rather than facilitate direct redemption for metal by typical investors. This abstraction allows for efficiency, but it also introduces complexity. One of the most important differences between paper and physical silver lies in market structure, particularly the use of leverage and the concept of claims on metal. In physical markets, ownership is finite and straightforward. A bar of silver can only be owned by one party at a time. In paper markets, however, multiple financial claims can be created relative to a smaller base of underlying metal. This occurs because futures contracts can be opened without immediate delivery. ETFs may hold metal but issue shares representing fractional ownership. Unallocated accounts may represent pooled claims rather than specific bars. This system is not inherently flawed. It is designed to facilitate liquidity and price discovery. In fact, most participants prefer it because it allows for efficient hedging, for example, miners locking in prices, speculation without logistical constraints, rapid entry and exit from positions. However, it also introduces a structural distinction. Paper silver markets operate on a system of claims, while physical silver operates on possession. The ratio between these claims and actual physical metal is not always transparent and can vary depending on the instrument and market conditions. This has led to ongoing debates among analysts about how closely paper markets reflect underlying physical supply and demand. To understand why both systems coexist, it helps to look at the incentives of different participants. Institutional participants prefer paper silver due to liquidity, scalability, and regulatory integration. Use derivatives for hedging and portfolio management. Value efficiency over physical possession. Retail investors may choose paper silver for accessibility and ease of trading. Alternatively, may prefer physical silver for perceived security and independence. Producers and industrial users use futures markets to stabilize pricing and manage risk, rarely rely on physical hoarding as a primary strategy. Financial intermediaries benefit from facilitating paper markets, fees, spreads, market making, and play a key role in maintaining liquidity and pricing mechanisms. These differing incentives help explain why paper silver markets are significantly larger in trading volume than physical markets. The system is built to prioritize velocity and flexibility, not necessarily one-to-one backing of every claim with physical metal. This does not imply instability, but it does highlight a fundamental distinction in how value is represented and transferred. The coexistence of paper and physical silver has led to several recurring debates. Price discovery. Some argue that paper markets dominate price discovery due to their size and liquidity. Others question whether this fully reflects physical supply-demand dynamics, redemption, and convertibility. Certain instruments allow for physical redemption under specific conditions, but these processes can be limited or impractical for smaller investors. Transparency. The degree of transparency varies across instruments. While some ETFs publish detailed holdings, other forms of paper silver involve less visibility into underlying reserves. Systemic stress scenarios. There is ongoing discussion about how paper and physical markets would interact under extreme conditions. Historical examples provide mixed evidence and outcomes are uncertain. It is important to approach these debates with nuance. Financial systems are complex and outcomes often depend on context, regulation, and participant behavior. Paper silver and physical silver represent two distinct ways of engaging with the same underlying asset. One emphasizes efficiency, liquidity, and integration with modern finance. The other emphasizes direct ownership, simplicity, and independence from intermediaries. Neither form is inherently superior in all contexts. Instead, they reflect different trade-offs. Paper silver offers convenience and scalability but relies on financial structures and counterparties. Physical silver offers direct ownership but introduces logistical and liquidity considerations. Understanding these differences is less about choosing sides and more about recognizing how modern markets function. The distinction reveals broader themes about abstraction in finance, how assets can be represented, traded, and leveraged in ways that extend beyond their physical form. As with many aspects of financial systems, the relationship between paper and physical silver is shaped by incentives, infrastructure, and historical evolution. It continues to adapt alongside changes in technology, regulation, and global economic conditions. This video is for educational purposes only and does not constitute financial advice.